The book of Matthew opens with the genealogy tracing the lineage of Abraham all the way to Jesus. Typically, biblical genealogies include very few women. Adam begat Seth, Seth begat Enosh, Enosh begat Kenan, etc., all men. That's why it's so interesting when Matthew includes 4 women in his genealogy: Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and Bathsheba. To review, these women appear in 4 different biblical books. In Genesis, after her husband died, Tamar tricked her father-in-law Judah to impregnate her. In Joshua, Rahab the prostitute provided cover for Joshua's spies. Ruth, whose book bears her name, married Boaz with the help of Naomi. And in Samuel, Bathsheba became David's wife even though she was married to another man. Why are these 4 women and only these 4 women included? Why not Sarah, Rebecca, and Rachel, who are also part of the messianic lineage? What's going on? There have been 3 general solutions to this question. The first is that the 4 women in the genealogy are non-Jews. Their inclusion in the genealogy of Jesus might be anticipating the Gentile mission of the church at the end of Matthew's gospel. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, ta ethne, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to follow all that I commanded you. And behold, I am with you always, to the end of the age. Ruth and Rahab are clearly former Gentiles, a Moabite and a Canaanite, respectively. However, we are not quite as sure about the ethnicity of Bathsheba. Ulrich Lutz argues that her identity as wife of Uriah the Hittite may signal that she was also a Hittite, perhaps giving up an originally Israelite identity. Tamar's origins are similarly vague. We know that Tamar's father-in-law Judah had a Canaanite wife, so it is certainly plausible that Tamar was a Canaanite too, but Bathsheba and Tamar may have very well been from Abraham's line as well. We just don't know. The second explanation is that God intervened in the affairs of these 4 women in an odd, even irregular fashion. As Donald A. Hagner notes, their marriages and unions involved an, quote, abundant presence of both surprise and scandal, end quote. Some say Ruth seduced Boaz at the threshing floor. Rahab was a prostitute. Bathsheba was married to Uriah when David showed up. And Tamar disguised herself as a prostitute to seduce Judah. Matthew is essentially highlighting that the messianic lineage includes a component of controversy. This approach has its strength in connecting these 4 women with Mary, whose virgin birth would have been surprising if not scandalous when it was first revealed. In this way, the Virgin Mother Mary can be viewed as a continuation of, if not the prime example, of God's irregular interventions in the lineage of Jesus. The third approach, which is the one I prefer, suggests that all 4 women faced social marginalization, meaning they lived their lives in the margins. Ruth was a destitute widow, Rahab was a prostitute, and Tamar was both a widow and a prostitute. Bathsheba was an adulteress. God intervened on behalf of each of these women to bring them into his fold. Just the mention of their names reminds the readers of their precarious positions and prepares them for the next part that deals with Mary. When Mary, who was betrothed to Joseph, becomes pregnant, she is in danger of marginalization and even death. Joseph planned on divorcing her, which would have left her alone with the child, a highly precarious position in ancient Israel. However, at this critical juncture, God intervenes to inform Joseph about her virgin conception. An angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. Joseph takes Mary as his wife, keeps her a virgin, and in the rest of the birth narrative, acts as the protector of Mary and the child Jesus. Despite the potential scandal, Mary's saved from the margins and finds God's blessing that was granted to Ruth, Tamar, Bathsheba, and Rahab. The mention of 4 women in the opening genealogy of Matthew primes readers for the theme of accepting the marginalized into the kingdom of heaven. Tax collectors, sinners, widows, prostitutes, foreigners, at-risk women, and adulteresses who find themselves cast aside can find hope in God who provides for Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, Bathsheba, and Mary. In fact, according to Matthew, these are the very women who are part of the Christmas story.